They've stopped calling it England versus Argentina. Across social media, it has taken on a completely different name now, England versus FIFA. Others have gone even further and simply started calling it England against FIFA. And after the entire tournament filled with controversial officiating that we've all just witnessed, can you honestly say you blame them? On Wednesday night in Atlanta, the luckiest and most suspiciously fortunate team in this whole competition crashes directly into the one opponent that may simply be too massive to quietly ride around. This is the showdown the entire summer has been building toward, whether FIFA ever wanted that reality or not. So let's get you fully prepared for it. First, let's be completely honest about why that nickname even exists in the first place. Because it wasn't invented out of thin air. It came from what everyone has watched unfold. Argentina reached this semi-final by the narrowest of margins. And at almost every desperate turning point, a whistle or a VAR screen appeared to lean in their favor. Against Egypt, a brilliant Egyptian goal was reviewed and erased because of a foul committed almost the length of the pitch away. Then a late penalty appeal at the opposite end was mysteriously ignored just moments before Argentina scored the decisive winner. Egypt were so furious they submitted a formal complaint directly to FIFA. Then against Switzerland, with the match slipping away and the Swiss having only just equalized, a VAR review stepped in and upgraded an Argentine yellow card into a Swiss red card, completely changing the direction of the match. Even Argentina's own coach, Lionel Scaloni, admitted it afterward. Luck was on our side today. That's the reality. Go back even further and Lionel Messi himself escaped without receiving a card after a studs-up stamp on Algeria's captain that many believed deserved a straight red. One decision after another, every crucial 50-50 moment landing on exactly the same side. That's the pattern. That's exactly where England versus FIFA was born. And here's the theory that is now consuming the internet, the one this entire video has to confront. The suggestion is that FIFA wants Messi playing in the final. That a governing body expecting to generate nearly $9 billion from this tournament, led by a president who openly admires Messi enough to invite his Inter Miami club into the Club World Cup despite not even qualifying, has every reason to want the greatest player of all time reaching one final global spectacle in what is almost certainly his last World Cup. Nobody has ever produced a smoking gun. But when you place the officiating pattern alongside the money involved and the obvious admiration, countless people have stopped believing in coincidence and started believing there is a script. Which is exactly why Wednesday represents FIFA's worst nightmare disguised as a football match. Because until now, that script, whether real or imagined, unfolded against Cape Verde, against Egypt, against Switzerland. Fantastic, determined teams, but not teams the casual worldwide audience was obsessively watching. Now the opponent is England, a football giant, one of the founding nations of the game, bringing more than 15,000 traveling supporters into the country and commanding the full attention of the entire planet. If a soft red card, a phantom offside decision, or an extremely generous penalty swings this particular match toward Argentina, there will be absolutely nowhere to hide it. It won't become a forgotten footnote in a match most viewers skipped. It will become the England semi-final examined frame by frame, replay by replay, in slow motion by a global audience already prepared, already skeptical, already waiting with screenshots in hand. The pattern has now become so impossible to ignore that the semi-final itself has transformed into a worldwide referendum on FIFA's integrity. Every single whistle on Wednesday is going to be examined like evidence presented in a courtroom. So what exactly should we all be watching for? If the script really exists, this is usually how it appears. Because we've already watched the entire playbook unfold throughout this tournament. Watch for an England goal being ruled out because of an offside so microscopic that only the technology inside the ball can detect it. Watch for a soft second yellow card that suddenly reduces England to 10 men at the precise moment they begin taking complete control. Watch for a generous penalty awarded at one end or an obvious penalty ignored at the other, followed immediately by a suspiciously convenient Argentina counterattack down the field. None of those moments would be anything new. Every single one has already happened to another team during this competition. So if you witness it again on Wednesday, you'll understand exactly why the entire internet explodes all at once. But now let's approach this seriously because the lazy version of this story paints a fairy tale of perfect heroes against absolute villains. And that's simply not the reality. Let me present the other side fairly. First, England are far from completely innocent because they also benefited from fortunate decisions just to reach this stage. During their quarterfinal, Jude Bellingham's equalizer against Norway came only moments after the ball appeared to brush an overhead camera cable. If that contact had been detected, play should have been stopped immediately. FIFA's ball technology showed no touch. The goal counted and Norway left furious. Thomas Tuchel himself assessed his team's display afterward and admitted plainly, "We were lucky today." So England have also traveled through controversy on their road into this semi-final. This is not a spotless hero walking in to defeat a proven villain. Second, and this point truly matters, every controversial Argentina decision that has outraged supporters was technically defensible under the written laws of the game. Embolo really did dive. The foul against Egypt really was a foul according to the rules, regardless of how far away it occurred. A decision that is technically correct yet still feels deeply unfair is not automatically the same thing as a rigged competition. And third, the villain narrative is partly created by distance and perspective. Roger Bennett, who was actually inside the stadium during the Egypt match, described the atmosphere as the most profound experience he had ever witnessed inside an American stadium. Almost religious, overflowing with joy, complete strangers embracing one another while Messi cried. On television it appeared villainous. Inside the stadium it felt almost magical. The truth is that this is far more likely the result of FIFA's long-standing inconsistency and incompetence combined with a genuine institutional affection for Messi's story rather than some literal conspiracy to predetermine the final score. There is absolutely no proof that matches have been fixed. There is only a governing body that has damaged its own credibility so badly that people no longer give it the benefit of the doubt under any circumstances. And here's the part that should honestly excite you because it's the biggest reason the supposed script might not even matter. England are genuinely outstanding and fully capable of winning this match through football alone without needing any favors whatsoever. Thomas Tuchel has become only the fourth manager in history to guide England into a World Cup semi-final after Alf Ramsey, Bobby Robson, and Gareth Southgate, and he has achieved it with a squad built around two of the hottest players in the entire tournament. Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham have both scored 6 goals in 6 matches, a total surpassed among the remaining teams only by Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe. But this story goes beyond simple statistics because it is the overall structure of England's attack that makes them so dangerous. Kane constantly drops deep from the front line to pull defenders out of position while linking the play together, forcing Argentina's backline into uncomfortable decisions they would rather avoid. Then England attack relentlessly through rotating speed on the wings with Bukayo Saka, Anthony Gordon, Noni Madueke, Marcus Rashford, and Ebereki Eze providing fresh legs almost every match. Charging directly through the middle comes Jude Bellingham, arriving late into the penalty area like a missile. It has become an almost perfectly designed system for exposing the exact defensive weakness Argentina have repeatedly displayed throughout this entire tournament. Because make absolutely no mistake, this Argentina team can be beaten. And it can be beaten in very clear and obvious ways. Their defense has been opened up by almost everyone they've faced. Cape Verde created plenty of dangerous chances against them. Egypt produced one of the tournament's best goals against them. Switzerland repeatedly found space behind their defensive line time after time. Lionel Scaloni has openly admitted that his team can barely connect 5 or 6 consecutive passes at the moment. They surrender leads with alarming regularity, and they are physically exhausted after being forced into extra time twice and surviving one dramatic last-second escape, 3 grueling knockout battles in succession, while their 39-year-old captain continues running on nearly empty. Messi failed to score against Switzerland, the first time in 10 World Cup matches that he finished without finding the net. If England press that weary and vulnerable defense with relentless energy, intensity, and pace, they can win this match outright, convincingly, and force the entire Argentina narrative straight back into FIFA's face. And yet, anyone writing Argentina off completely would be making a huge mistake. And here's exactly why. This is the most experienced and emotionally unshakable team still remaining in the tournament. Whenever a match hangs by the thinnest possible thread, nothing seems to rattle them. They may have lost their attacking rhythm, but they continue finding ways to win because they possess 2 priceless qualities that no coach can teach and no amount of money can purchase: Lionel Messi and a squad capable of producing brilliance from absolutely nowhere. Julian Alvarez's thunderous long-range strike against Switzerland. Enzo Fernandez's decisive header that defeated Egypt. Whenever the score is level and the pressure becomes almost unbearable, somebody wearing blue and white delivers a magical moment. And never underestimate the emotion driving them forward either. An entire nation is chasing La Ultima de Leo, Messi's final dance. He is about to face England for the very first time in his career after missing their previous meeting because of suspension, telling reporters simply, "I've never had the chance to play against England." They even requested and received approval to wear their lucky away kit, the very same strip they wore while defeating England in both 1986 and 1998. They believe deeply in Kabbalah, in superstition, and they believe the football gods still owe Messi one final gift. Never underestimate the power of that belief. Tactically, this match will ultimately be decided by several massive individual battles, and they're worth understanding now so you'll know exactly where to focus your attention on Wednesday. The most obvious question is who stops Messi? He is no longer the box-to-box force he was a decade ago, instead drifting between spaces while carefully conserving his energy. Yet he remains the most dangerous player on the planet whenever the ball reaches the final third. England's midfielders and fullbacks must decide whether to mark him individually or remain faithful to their defensive structure. Give him even a single yard of space and he will punish you. Then Argentina face the opposite dilemma. How do they possibly contain the Kane and Bellingham partnership with a defense already stretched to its limits and visibly exhausted? If Argentina retreat deeper to shield that fragile backline, they surrender possession and territory exactly where England want to dominate. If they step forward and compress the field, they expose the very spaces behind them where Bellingham thrives. There simply isn't a comfortable solution, which is exactly why England believe they can win this tie. In midfield, England's youthful energy against Argentina's experience represents the entire contest in miniature. Can Argentina's intelligent and streetwise midfielders slow the tempo down to suit themselves, or will England's relentless intensity simply run them into the Atlanta turf? There is also an important subplot inside the England camp, and it deserves attention because it could either unite them or quietly pull them apart. After the Norway match, Thomas Tuchel publicly criticized his own team's performance and described them as fortunate winners. Jude Bellingham, who had scored twice, did not appreciate those comments, responding with a sharp remark questioning whether his manager truly understood what it feels like to compete against opponents such as Haaland and Odegaard, a pointed reference to Tuchel's brief playing career. It is exactly the kind of internal tension that either strengthens a squad through adversity or slowly damages the dressing room at the worst possible moment. Tuchel must resolve that issue before Wednesday because a divided England entering this atmosphere would be exactly what Argentina would hope for. So what is the actual prediction? Here's how it looks. If this remains 11 against 11 and the officials stay completely out of the spotlight, England have a genuine, perhaps even better than even, chance of winning. They are fresher, they are playing with confidence, and this tactical matchup fits them almost perfectly against a defense running on its final reserves. Based purely on footballing merit, England deserve the slightest edge. But Argentina still have Messi. They still possess remarkable composure. And they continue finding ways to win regardless of how untidy their performances appear. Whether through moments of brilliance or, as critics continue insisting, with the help of another favorable whistle. The single biggest question hanging over this entire semi-final is no longer tactical at all. It is whether the outcome will truly be decided on the pitch. And that is exactly what makes this the most eagerly anticipated and fiercely controversial match of the entire World Cup. Remember as well what is actually waiting for the winner. Whoever survives the battle in Atlanta will secure a place in the World Cup final at MetLife Stadium on July 19th against either France or Spain, the two strongest and most complete teams still left in the tournament, who meet in their own semi-final just one day earlier. For England, this represents the gateway to their first World Cup final since lifting the trophy back in 1966, the moment an entire nation has waited more than 60 years to experience again after decades of heartbreak, disappointment, and painful near misses. For Argentina, it is one final step toward allowing Lionel Messi to walk into retirement as a back-to-back World Cup champion, a farewell that would place him beyond all remaining debate as the greatest footballer of all time. The stakes simply could not be any higher for either nation, and that only magnifies every refereeing question hanging over this match. One controversial decision would not merely determine the outcome of a semi-final. It would decide which footballing superpower earns the chance to chase immortality and which one returns home carrying a lifetime of unanswered what-if moments. That is the unimaginable pressure resting on the shoulders of whichever official FIFA chooses to referee this contest, and you can be certain they feel every bit of it. And we've hardly even discussed the fact that, even without the FIFA controversy, this fixture would still rank among the biggest in football because the history between England and Argentina is overflowing with unforgettable drama. This will be the 6th World Cup meeting between the two countries, yet the very first at the semi-final stage and their first encounter of any kind in more than 20 years. This is the rivalry that stretches back to the infamous 1966 quarterfinal when Argentina captain Antonio Rattin was sent off at Wembley and famously refused to leave the pitch, a man whose death at the age of 89 was announced only days before this Argentina side took the field wearing black armbands in tribute. This is also the rivalry of 1986 in Mexico City, where Diego Maradona produced both the hand of God and the goal of the century in the very same match, only 4 years after the Falklands War had added an even darker emotional edge to every meeting between the two nations. Maradona later admitted that he almost preferred the handball because, in his words, it felt a little like stealing the Englishman's wallet. It is also the rivalry of David Beckham's red card in 1998 and his redemption through the winning penalty in 2002. Nearly 6 decades of history, bitterness, and unforgettable moments are woven into this fixture, and on Wednesday it reaches perhaps its biggest chapter yet with a place in the World Cup final hanging in the balance. You also cannot separate this rivalry from the lasting shadow of the Falklands, or Las Malvinas as Argentina calls the islands, the 74-day conflict in 1982 that claimed more than 900 lives and injected genuine political emotion into every football meeting that followed. That is why the 1986 victory felt like revenge to so many Argentines, and it explains why the emotions surrounding this game burn far hotter than sport alone could ever justify. Those emotions are already boiling over. After defeating Switzerland, Argentina's dressing room was filmed singing an offensive chant referencing the Falklands while promising to win the trophy por Las Malvinas and por la Última de Leo. Throughout the tournament, Argentine supporters have repeatedly chanted, "El que no salta es Ingles," meaning whoever does not jump is English. More than 15,000 England supporters are already in the United States, many remaining for this semi-final, while small confrontations have already broken out between England and Argentina fans on Miami's South Beach, with authorities in Georgia preparing for possible flashpoints before kickoff. To truly understand why Argentina play the way they do, combining breathtaking technical brilliance with a ruthless competitive edge that frustrates every opponent, journalist Jonathan Wilson once captured it perfectly by describing their football as belonging to the streets, where players learn to protect themselves because there is no teacher carrying a whistle. That is the spirit at the heart of this Argentina team, and now it is about to collide with England's determination on football's grandest stage. So here is where everything finally stands, and exactly why you should clear your schedule for Wednesday. Either England are talented enough, prepared enough, and most importantly powerful enough to smash the supposed script completely apart by defeating Argentina so convincingly that no refereeing decision could possibly save them, or the entire football world watches the same pattern survive one more round against the biggest and most closely watched opponent imaginable, sending the accusations against FIFA into absolute overdrive. There is simply no quiet ending to this story. Kickoff is at 3 o'clock Eastern in Atlanta, and one way or another, this is the match the entire tournament has been daring everyone to watch from the very beginning. So what do you believe happens next? Does England finally break the curse, or do Messi's magic, Argentina's resilience, and perhaps, as critics would argue, a little extra help carry them into one more World Cup final? Leave your prediction before kickoff, and I'll be right back here after the final whistle to break down every major decision, every controversial moment,